Alright, you saw the title. Let's do this. This is the mega college football Oklahoma preview for 2018. I got a charged battery. Let's put it all together and see what comes out. So first and foremost, I want to start with SB Nation's excellent college football preview put together by the one and only Bill Connelly. And let's get into it. It begins with the title. Even without Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma is still far and away your 2018 Big 12 favorite. I like where you're going with that, Bill. Lincoln Riley Sooners still have more proven pieces than just about anyone and a very doable path back to the college football playoff. So let's start with Bill's 5 key points. They are, number 1, Mayfield was an all-time great and OU is still the Big 12 favorite without him. And number 2, a new offense built around Rodney Anderson and speedy quarterback Kyler Murray could be fun. But Murray still has a bit more to prove with his arm, and OU is without go-to possession man Mark Andrews. Number 3, the OU defense got better over the second half of the year, really. And with so many sophomores and juniors, it could be awesome in 2019. 2018 though, hard to say. In the name of the Father, Holy Ghost, Spirit, amen. It is not hard to see how this year goes awry. The offseason regresses more than the defense improves, or the defense doesn't improve at all. The Sooners fall victim to a couple of upsets, and Riley uses the mulligan he earned last year. And finally, number 5, but if you're playing the odds, it's obvious who starts out 2018 atop the Big 12. So those are Bill Connelly's 5 points. He projects the Sooners record to be 10-2. And now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of Connelly's football preview. This was one hell of a 12-month period. Bob Stoops retires suddenly in early June 2017, leaving a top 10 team in the hands of first-time head coach Lincoln Riley. The Sooners plant their flag in Ohio State's home stadium, avenge a 2016 defeat with a strangely easy 31-16 win, and moving to number 2 in the AP poll. They half stink for a month, beating a miserable Baylor by 8, losing to Iowa State, and beating Texas and Kansas State by a score each. They rebound, beating TCU by 18 and WVU by 28, then taking down TCU again by 24 in the Big 12 title game. They secured the number 2 seed in the playoff. All the while, Baker Mayfield is running away with the Heisman and grabbing his crotch. Their season ends in the most beautiful game of the year. OU bolts to a 31-14 lead in the Rose Bowl semifinal against Georgia. Falls behind in the fourth quarter, then scores 14 points to take the lead again. Georgia wins in double overtime. Mayfield is the number 1 pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. His assumed successor, Kyler Murray, is picked number 9 in the 2018 MLB Draft. He'll play quarterback in 2018 before entering pro baseball. A year ago, I was wondering what kind of effect Riley's rookie status might have on a title contender. We saw some unsure moments, but the Sooners survived with only 1 blemish, improved in November, and came within 1 play of the title game. Hard to ask for much more than that. I'd say he's correct, yes. Now, even with the loss of one of the best QBs in college football memory, the Sooners remain easily the most proven commodity in the Big 12. Murray will have quite the list of compliments. From running back Rodney Anderson to receivers Marquise Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb to 3 all-conference multi-year starters on the line. Guards Ben Powers, Andrew Samia, and tackle Bobby Evans. And the Sooners' young defense improved late until the second half of the Rose Bowl and returns some exciting pieces. With what Riley is building, a couple of glitches minus Mayfield wouldn't be the end of the world. Recruiting is going gangbusters. Yeah, it is! OU signed a top 10 class in 2018 and potentially is in the process of inking a top 5 class. And defensive coordinator Mike Stoops has almost no seniors this fall. OU should improve defensively this fall and then do so again in 2019. Again! In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In revitalizing the program and guiding the Sooners to their best finish in 13 years, Riley earned a pretty big mulligan. He might not need to use it this fall, but if he does, the future is still bright. Now, Connelly moves into the offense. Per the offensive S&P Plus, here are the top 5 offenses of the 2010s. Number 1 is 2017 Oklahoma, 47.2 adjusted points per game. At number 2 is 2013 Texas A&M, 47.1 points. At number 3 is 2016 Oklahoma, 46.8 points. At number 4 is 2010 Auburn, 46.8 points. And at number 5 is 2011 Oklahoma State at 46.6 points. That's pretty good company. At as you'll see Bill continues to say. A Johnny Manziel offense, a Cam Newton offense, the Brandon Whedon-led OSU attack that came within a goalpost of the BCS title game, and 2 Mayfield offenses. Bill says, I figured that expresses just how absurd the Sooner attack was with the #1 pick. OU was so far ahead that even taking iffy returning production into account, the Sooners are still projected as the #1 offense this season. That's an unreasonable expectation, but the Sooners still will be pretty potent. Rodney Anderson had to wait his turn in Norman, missing 1 season with a leg injury and another with a neck fracture. He didn't get the reins as OU's go-to back until the 7th game of the season against K-State, but when he did, the Sooner offense went into a different level. Anderson, first 6 games, was 22 carries, 82 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, and 2 TDs. Anderson's last 8 games, 166 carries, 1,079 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, and 11 TDs. OU averaged 42 points per game before he emerged, then lifted that to 47.5 when he became the feature guy. Blue chip freshman Trey Sermon wasn't chopped liver either. He averaged 6.2 yards per carry for the season and 6.8 in the last 8 games, but with Anderson taking over, OU's run game maintained its upside with fewer negative plays. Combining this duo with the exceedingly mobile Murray is enticing, not including sacks. Murray has rushed 59 times for 529 yards, that's 9 yards per carry, in his brief career at OU and Texas A&M. He's lightning, and 5 hosses in front of him should help. The Sooners return all 3 all-conference linemen in Ben Powers, first team in 2017, Samia, second team, and Evans, honorable mention. Bobby Evans got robbed, but you get the point. They bring back senior Jonathan Alvarez, who redshirted in 2017 after starting 13 games previously, and guard Cody Ford, who made 4 spot starts last fall. They lose significant pieces in consensus All-American Orlando Brown and first-team All-Conference center Eric Wren, but they have 6 guys who've combined for 103 career starts. We know from Riley's past as offensive coordinator at ECU and OU that he's more than happy to incorporate a layer of easy, short, efficient passing to keep his attack on schedule. In receivers like Lamb, plus 20% marginal efficiency, slot man Michael Jones, plus 24% over 21 targets in 2017, and tight end Grant Calcaterra, plus 31% over 14 targets, Murray might have some ultra-efficient targets to work with. The thought of going vertical, though, will be endlessly tantalizing thanks to Brown. Right around the time Anderson found himself, Brown emerged as one of the nation's most terrifying receivers. He had 6 catches for 126 yards against Kansas State and then 9 for 265 against Oklahoma State. Thanks to the presence of wide receiver tight end Mark Andrews, now a Baltimore Raven, he never had to be the go-to guy, but he averaged 20.1 yards per catch over the final 10 games. If the run game and horizontal passing are working, throwing to Brown will be the finishing move for Murray or whoever ends up starting quarterback. It bears mentioning that Murray didn't exactly pull away from 4-star sophomore Austin Kendall in the spring battle. Murray, a blue chipper who started for part of his freshman season at A&M, is the big name. He was a high-profile recruit and he's averaged 9 yards per non-sack carry and completed 60% of his passes thus far. But he'll have to be awfully good to stay ahead of Kendall in a battle that might continue into the season. Kendall isn't electric as Murray in the run game, few are, but he's got a lot of potential himself. Now Bill Conley moved into the defense, and it gets kind of dreary. That trigger warning was mostly for myself. He begins, breaking! Mike Stoops is still Oklahoma's coordinator. I'm not going to lie, I didn't really expect that, being that he's the brother of the former head coach and the head man for a defense that has been disappointing and or inconsistent. It wasn't easy to assume Stoops might ease his way into another job. I don't mean this as a particularly positive oriented thing, I'm just surprised. Makes 2 of us, Bill! OU 2017 is a good example of how full season numbers can only tell you so much. OU defense first 3 games gave up 12.5 points per game, 4.2 yards per play, 76% average percentile performance. OU's defense the next 6 games gave up 36.2 points per game, 6.6 yards per play, 31% average percentile performance. OU's defense the last 4 games gave up 17.8 points per game, 5 yards per play, 70% average percentile performance. OU played about half the season with a top 30 defense and about half with a bottom 30 defense. And for the first 6 drives of the Rose Bowl, the Sooners had the upper hand on Jake Fromm, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, and a dynamite Georgia attack. Then it all unraveled. You're telling me, Bill? Georgia scored 7 times in its last 11 drives. A 17-point lead turned into an overtime loss, and the OU's defense stinks narrative from the midseason came roaring back. I mean, it stunk for the last 6 years, Bill, but you know, I'm just the one paying attention. If you look only at the full season numbers and the fact that the Sooners must replace 4 of their top 6 havoc creators, tackles for loss, passes defended, forced fumbles, those are havoc creating numbers, then it's hard to be optimistic. Obo Okonkwo alone made 17% of OU's havoc plays and he's gone. There's hope in youth though. Sophomore linebacker Kenneth Murray made 7.5 tackles for loss, second on the team, and almost all over the second half of the season. He was a huge part of the defense's improvement. Cornerbacks Parnell Motley and Trey Norwood combined for 4.5 tackles for loss, all from Motley, and 19 passes defended as a sophomore and freshman respectively. As an unexpected number 1 cornerback in the Big 12, Motley was challenged constantly by big-time Big 12 receivers, and he got beaten a lot, but he landed some blows of his own. Sophomore corner Jordan Parker's back too. Motley was an unexpected number 1 in part because Parker was lost with a knee injury right at the start of the season. Tackles Marquise Overton, Neville Gallimore, Amani Bledsoe, and Dylan Fa'amatu are back after all taking on heavy loads as sophomores. OU's run defense was hit and miss and different every week, but experience up front can be enormous. And Kenneth Mann is back. He was second on the team in sacks, also as a sophomore. Whether he can raise his game to Obo levels remains to be seen. Now it gets good. Holy cow, the young talent coming in. OU boasts 4 or 5-star true or redshirt freshmen at each level of the defense. 6 on the line, 3 at linebacker, 2 in the backfield. If only a quarter of them are ready for niche roles, and it sounds like safety Brendan Radley-Hiles and Ronnie Perkins could be ready for more than that, then this team will have depth it couldn't fathom last year. Depth doesn't equal playmaking, but it gives you lots more margin for error. Now Conley moves into special teams. Austin Seibert. OU was masterful in finishing drives in 2017, and not only because of Mayfield. On the rare opportunities when a drive stalled, Seibert, once the number 1 kicker recruit in the country, was able to salvage points. He was perfect on PATs and 17 for 21 on field goals, and he was a perfect 5 of 5 in OU's 3 one-possession wins in conference play. But we'll forever remember one of those 4 misses, the block kick in overtime in the Rose Bowl. That's a kicker's life in a nutshell. Seibert also never found a rhythm in the punting department. OU ranked just 101st in punt efficiency, which drove just the number 71 overall ranking in the special teams S&P+. And while punting wasn't a big deal with OU's ridiculous offense, he might need to come through a bit more this fall. As with Oklahoma State, I do figure OU's S&P Plus projections are a bit skewed. Not necessarily in the overall ranking, 9th feels right to me, but the number 1 projection on offense and the number 49 projection on defense. Assume more regression on O and more improvement on D. Also assume OU wins a lot of games. There's no question that losing Mayfield and company will give a team like TCU, Texas, OSU, and West Virginia a chance to make up ground. But of those 4 contenders, only the Mountaineers have a proven QB. Oh yeah, and at 9th, OU is the projected favorite in every game on the schedule. Only 1 game, the trip to TCU, is projected within a touchdown. So today we're going to get into Athlon Sports' college football preview for my and your Oklahoma Sooners in 2018, starting with this. Its national forecast has the Sooners at number 10, but finishing number 1 in the Big 12, which basically puts us in the college football playoff no matter how you see it. They project OU's record to finish at 11-2 and 7-2 in the Big 12. After making note of our top 10 recruits according to Athlon Sports being Bray Walker at number 1, Brendan Radley-Hiles at number 2, Ronnie Perkins at number 3, Michael Thompson at number 4, TJ Pledger at number 5, Ron Tatum at number 6, Jalen Redmond at number 7, Jaquaylin Crawford at number 8, Deshaun White at number 9, and Nicholas Benito at number 10, we get into the 4 categories for which Athlon Sports has broken up its preview. Those categories are offense, defense, special teams, and its final analysis, and I'm going to go through those now. Per the offense, a devastating double overtime loss to Georgia in a college football playoff semifinal only began the painful blows for Oklahoma. In the aftermath, the Sooners came to grips with losing Baker Mayfield, their Heisman Trophy winner and unabashed face of the program, leaving a gaping void at quarterback. Left tackle Orlando Brown and tight end Mark Andrews, both unanimous All-Americans, were gone too. So the offense has some retooling to do. Beginning at quarterback, where a spring battle solved little, with neither Kyler Murray nor Austin Kendall creating any separation, sending the competition into the fall. Murray, a former starter at Texas A&M, was considered the front runner for the job after serving as Mayfield's backup last season. And he played well in the spring, but Kendall, a former four-star recruit from North Carolina, did too. The other skill positions featured plenty of playmakers. Rodney Anderson didn't start until the 8th game of 2017, yet rushed for 1,161 yards and 13 touchdowns to earn second-team All-Big 12 honors. Deep threat Marquise Brown and Big CeeDee Lamb highlight a deep and talented receiving corps. The offensive line, even minus Brown, projects as a strength, with Bobby Evans moving from right tackle to the left side and headlining a group that includes 2 other returning starters and is a full 2 deep. Now we move to the defense. Mayfield and the dynamic offense covered up some defensive deficiencies the past 2 seasons, including last fall when Oklahoma ranked 87th in passing yards allowed. The Sooners have a lot of bodies and solid experience across the defensive front, yet they need difference makers to emerge. Veteran tackles Amani Bledsoe and Marquise Overton remain, although freshmen may be called on to bolster the ends. Youth is in play in the secondary too, with only 4 upperclassmen among 13 scholarship players. Safety Khalil Houghton is the only senior projected to start. Parnell Motley and Trey Norwood return as starting corners, although freshman spring sensation Brendan Riley-Hiles is on the verge. There's more stability at linebacker, where the tough and instinctive Kenneth Murray earned freshman All-America honors a year ago. Caleb Kelly also returns as a starter. Now we move on to specialist. Oklahoma's special teams remain a strength, largely because of the work of Austin Seibert, who earned second-team All-Big 12 notice as a kicker and honorable mention honors as a punter last season. He ranks 3rd in career scoring and 5th in career field goals made. He stands 5th all-time at Oklahoma, with a 41.8 yard career punt return average. The Sooners would like to become more dynamic in the return game, and they have that potential with holdovers Lamb and reserve running back Marcelius Sutton. Now, there's Athlon Sports' final analysis. In Norman, they're used to replacing All-Americans and continuing to win big. So downgrade the Sooners with caution. Sure, the coaches would like to be more settled at quarterback, and the schedule doesn't offer the opportunity to ease into things, with UCLA visiting in week 2, followed by the Big 12 opener at Iowa State the following Saturday. Still, if Murray or Kendall takes hold of the quarterback position, the Sooners will again have the look of a Big 12 favorite and a college football playoff contender. Now we're going to get into college football news' preview of the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma is in a spot all by itself. At the moment, there's Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. Those 3 programs have won the college football playoff national championship and have been to multiple CFPs. And then there's Wisconsin, USC, and Penn State. Close but not quite superpower programs that haven't been able to crack the playoff code. And in between those 2 levels is OU, who has owned the Big 12 over the last 3 seasons and has the talent to do it again, with the distinction of being the only one to get to the CFP twice without winning or playing in the national championship. But the key is keep getting there. At some point it's going to work, the right playoff breaks will kick in, and the Sooners will be on the national championship stage. Oklahoma is the epitome of the horrible have to be in it to win it cliche. What has to change to get over the hump? What's missing, and what does the program have to do differently to go from being in the club to in the VIP lounge? Nothing. Unlike Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State, Oklahoma went through a regime change and was still able to get into the CFP. Bob Stoops was an all-timer of a head coach, had a heater of a team returning, and everything turned out to be just fine under Lincoln Riley. Yeah, it might lose an all-timer of a quarterback in Baker Mayfield, but Oklahoma has lost all-timer quarterbacks before and rolled on. The Sooners lost 5 starters on offense and 5 starters on defense, and there's no real concern. The depth was stunning and the gaps are being filled right away. The Big 12 doesn't have a team as strong as last year's Oklahoma State or even a veteran TCU squad, but it's full of a whole bunch of okay teams. Even so, for a program used to battling for the college football playoff, there's nothing here worth getting into a twist over. If the Sooners play up to their capabilities, they can and should get to the Big 12 championship again with just 1 loss. There's nothing on the schedule that's a problem if OU is really that good. And now, 18 years after last winning a national championship, as long as the quarterback play is fine and there's no massive slip against the manageable slate, Oklahoma really might find itself in a truly strange place. In Santa Clara on January 7th, being handed a trophy by Bill Hancock. What you need to know about Oklahoma's offense. No, seriously, how do you possibly follow up that? Of course, it's Oklahoma, and of course the production will be there, but thanks to a historic season from Baker Mayfield, the Sooners led the nation in total offense and passing efficiency, and were 3rd in scoring. There will be a drop-off, and 5 starters are gone, but the machine will keep on rolling. It'll just be different. Calimary is a fantastic baseball player, and he was just as big a recruit for Texas A&M. Now it is his time to add something different to the Oklahoma offense, assuming he really does beat out the solid passing Austin Kendall for the right to replace Mayfield. Forget about Murray being the same sort of passer that Mayfield was, but with his wheels, he'll add a speed element to the attack. Tight end Mark Andrews might be gone, leading receiver Marquise Brown returns along with enough young wideout talent to keep stretching the field. Michael Jones is a dangerous option, and CeeDee Lamb was fantastic as a freshman, finishing 3rd on the team with 46 grabs and averaging 17 yards per grab. Murray will be the team's most dangerous runner, but Rodney Anderson is one of the nation's best running backs, leading the team with 1,161 yards and 13 scores. And Trey Sermon is a terrific second option, averaging over 6 yards per carry. The ground attack will be loaded and explosive, and the blocking will be there to make it all go. Orlando Brown is gone at 1 tackle, but Ben Powers is one of the best Big 12 guards. Bobby Evans is an all-star tackle, and Drew Samia is a versatile option and an all Big 12 caliber piece of the puzzle. The biggest key to Oklahoma's offense? Let the running game do the work. Lost a bit in all of the amazement from what Mayfield did week in and week out was a ground attack that led the Big 12 with 217 yards per game. Anderson can be a 20 carry back every game, and Murray, assuming he's the guy, will hit around 500 yards. The O can win by ripping off 250 yards per game on the ground and controlling the clock. Again. Oklahoma led the Big 12 in time of possession too. The line will be great, the backfield will be deep, and the running attack that cranked up over 3,000 yards can do even more. There won't be any need to force the passing game, and there's no way to repeat what happened last year. There's no reason to try. What you need to know about Oklahoma's defense? 4 of the top 6 tacklers are gone, and replacing top pass rushers Obo Oronquo and DJ Ward will be an issue. But defensive coordinator Mike Stoops has a great base to work with. The OUD allowed close to 400 yards and 27 points per game, and it should be around there again considering the Big 12 offenses should take a step back overall. Can Mark Jackson be the next Obo? The 6'1", 235-pounder has the size and has waited his turn, but he needs to be a playmaker behind the line in the hybrid role. Second leading tackler Kenneth Murray and junior Caleb Kelly are good ones on the inside, and the other outside spot will be a revolving door for a bit. Overall, the linebackers will be good, and the line will be more than solid too. Neville Gallimore and Marquise Overton aren't massive, but they can handle themselves on the inside. Kenneth Mann is a good veteran on the outside, and in the mix early on, as should be, star recruits Ronnie Perkins, Jalen Redmond, and Ron Tatum as part of the mix in some way. The corners should be amazing. Considering how much teams bombed away to try keeping up, the Sooners did a solid job, allowing 238 yards per game and 23 scores. Trey Norwood and Parnell Motley are young, but they can play. Motley was 4th on the team in tackles with 63 stops, and Norwood grew into a starter and was great late. There's enough depth to play around with options too. The safety situation isn't quite as settled with Stephen Parker and Will Johnson gone after combining for 125 stops. There's an interesting mix of veterans who waited their turn and young prospects with the talent to start right away. Brendan Radley-Hiles was the team's top recruit and will start somewhere in the secondary. He'll take over one of the safety gigs when he's ready. The biggest key to Oklahoma's defense, the pass rush has to be more explosive despite losing the key parts. The OU defense generated 30 plus sacks a year on a regular basis for several years, but last year it almost never exploded in any one game. The Sooners finished 8th in the Big 12 in tackles for loss and failed to generate 2 or more sacks in 6 games. Overall, the defense was good, and it will be again. Come up with 2 or more sacks a game every game, and the D has the talent and upside to be dominant. The best Oklahoma offensive player? Rodney Anderson. Could he possibly live up to the prep hype after suffering a broken neck? The 6'1", 219-pounder was a huge recruit for the program, but he missed all of 2016 and was eased into the 2017 season with just 12 carries in 5 games. But for a running game that had to replace Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon, he turned into just the force needed over the second half of the season. Powerful, quick, and creative when he has to be. He ran for over 100 yards in 6 of the 8 games. The 2 games he didn't were blowouts, highlighted by a brilliant 201-yard day against Georgia in the Rose Bowl. He can catch a little bit, and he'll block, but give him the ball 20 times, let him get 100 yards, and the offense is balanced out. The best Oklahoma defensive player? Linebacker Kenneth Murray Jr. A solid recruit, the 6'2", 243-pounder was supposed to ease into his career before becoming a key tackler in the interior of the linebacking core. That changed quickly, getting in right away as a true freshman and finishing second on the team with 77 tackles with a sack and 7.5 tackles for loss. He's not much of a pass rusher, at least not yet, but he's a rock-steady force in the inside and a tough open field tackler, and now he knows what he's doing. The key player to a successful season? Calimary. He's only 5'10" and 190 pounds, and he's probably better at baseball than at playing quarterback, and Austin Kendall is right there in the mix for playing time, and Calimary might be the most important player in college football. Oklahoma is more than talented enough to win another Big 12 title and get back to another college football playoff, but it has to replace a quarterback who came up with one of the greatest individual seasons in the history of the sport. No, Murray isn't Baker Mayfield, but Mayfield isn't as fast as Murray, who has academic All Big 12 smarts, the athleticism, and the moxie to become yet another great Sooner quarterback. If he's amazing, Oklahoma wins another conference championship. The key game to the Oklahoma season? Texas on October 6th. Oklahoma needs a buffer. In a down year for the conference, it can and should get back to the Big 12 championship, but the sights are set higher than that. There's no Ohio State on the slate. Getting Florida Atlantic, UCLA, and Army at home isn't bad, and the 4 league road games at Iowa State, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. The Sooners can lose once and be just fine, but it can't lose twice and get back to the CFP again. It took Baker Mayfield being the best player in college football to get by Texas 29-24 last season, and now this rivalry of rivalry games is about to turn into a must-win for Tom Herman in Texas more than it normally would. Beat the Longhorns and get to the week off at 6-0 before going to TCU, and everything will be right on track. Lose, and it'll be a testy second half of the year with a slew of rough games and no buffer. Prediction for what's going to happen? Oklahoma will be right back in the thick of the national title hunt again. No, Kyler Murray won't be Baker Mayfield, but he'll be fantastic. Rodney Anderson will be among the best running backs in the country, and the offense will keep on rolling. It might not be the unstoppable machine of the last season, but it won't have to be. OU has a no-name defense, but there are a whole lot of very young, very good talents for what should once again be an underappreciated group. Throw in one of college football's best all-around kickers in Austin Seibert, and with Lincoln Riley now in his second year as the head coach, nothing stops. At the very least, Oklahoma has to get back to the Big 12 championship, or it'll be a clunker of a year. And that's not going to happen. Alright, that's it for me. Deuces.